How's it going, everyone? The Trout 91 here. Welcome to Gun in 60 Seconds. This time we're looking at the Lewis gameplay section of the video, talking a bit more about the gun in depth. As obviously 60 seconds is only so much information you can get into it, and it's a bit more for those who have the small attention spans, but want to see a bit more about this gun. Now, I think this is actually genuinely probably the best gun in the game. I think it is an absolute tank. It is really, really hard to combat. And whenever I've been in a situation where I'm not having a good game or I'm really struggling to get kills, I just pull out the Lewis and immediately I'm absolutely dominating people. It is such a good gun. It doesn't really require much to get going. So I think no matter what class you're looking at or whatever division you're going with, you don't necessarily have to follow what I've put in Gun in 60 Seconds or what I'm going to go through here. Anything you put on it kind of improves it in some way or another. I think there are some combinations that make it better than others, but overall I think you're going to get an amazing weapon out of it. So this gun obviously boasts a high damage. I think it's got fantastic iron sights. There's not really much wrong with them. It's got a low to moderate recoil, sometimes a little bit higher than others, a bit unpredictable that way, but it's pretty straightforward. Like, the recoil is always predictable, it's just how much you're getting out of it. It seems to change every now and then, especially over distance, but at medium range it absolutely dominates people. I think your close range is where you're probably going to suffer, and I think that's kind of truth-telling of all LMGs in general. The fire rate's not hugely high. I'd say it's low to medium, which is fine as it is, because when you are fighting people over distance, you have got that high accuracy, I find, with this gun, so you're not really going to have to suffer too much. And if you're not a fan of Gustav Cannon, I highly recommend using this gun, because it is just absolutely wonderful to use against snipers. It is clunky and heavy, as I've said before, so it is a little bit slow, so you have to play with a bit more intelligence about what you're doing. You have to play a bit more passively and think about your moves rather than just running in there gung-ho. You probably can get away with that every now and then, but you wouldn't be able to do it for very long, so you have to be wary of that as well. When you also fire with an LMG, you do have to be aware that you do slow down dramatically while you are ADS. So if I were to aim down my sights and I start shooting, I can't move very fast or very far when I'm shooting. So even though I tend to pick the infantry division for that faster ADS movement, it doesn't actually work whilst you're firing. I like having it just to get around corners and move about and make sure I'm ready, because it is that huge, heavy, clunky weapon. So it does get me a little bit more ready in time. But you do have to be aware that you're not always going to be able to strafe with it. The magazine's not massive. It's about 40-odd bullets in a single clip, which is not huge for an LMG as well, which is again why I recommend extended mags. There are lots and lots of benefits to it. You could pick this gun up straight off the ground with no attachments, no real clue what's going on, and still succeed with it. That's how highly I rate this weapon. Now, let's get into some of the attachments I like to run. Quickdraw is my favorite. ADS is slow on this gun, and obviously it doesn't always work when you're out of sprinting Quickdraw, but I don't think that's a big problem right now, because you are using a gun that's a bit heavier, a bit clunkier, so you are going to be moving a bit slower in general. So I think you're still going to get that quick ADS time with it, and because it is so slow to start with, anything that's going to help you out in that department is a big win. Grip will lower the recoil for you at extreme distances. I don't necessarily think it's a necessity. If you're running rapid fire, I would 100% recommend putting grip on it, because it can get a bit out of control and a bit wavy sometimes. But in general, I think that it is just a great gun to use without grip. I think it has that low recoil that you need, and the iron sights are very helpful at lining up your shots that you don't necessarily need it. The reflex is okay, but personally I think the iron sights are far, far better. I think sometimes I can get lost in the reflex, and the recoil just seems to put me off a bit by using the reflex sight, so I wouldn't really recommend it. Steady aim, yeah, it probably will improve your hip fire accuracy at close range, but if you're getting that close to use your hip fire, you're probably not using the gun correctly, and if you are using it, you're only going to be doing it once or twice, so I don't think it's really recommended or necessary to use an attachment just for the once or twice you might be up close and personal. FMJ is an attachment I would highly recommend. It just cuts through walls and objects so easily. and this gun really shines when you are able to take people out through walls and objects. It just gives it that little bit extra potency, and I find that sometimes when I am shooting through objects and walls, even though it does have quite a nice bullet penetration compared to some of the other guns, it doesn't quite always get there, and when you do have it on, just every time seems to pick up kills, and when you do have extended mags with it, you can spam those shots to pick them up, kind of like old Call of Duty games all over again. ACOG, it's not really my kind of thing. I don't really ever tend to use ACOG on most weapons, but if you want to give it a whirl, I wouldn't really say it's a bad thing. It's going to help you over distance, but I think as the gun is set out as it is, I wouldn't really say you need it. Extended mags turns it into a proper LMG. Having almost 100 bullets in a round is really good. It negates the fact that you have to reload really slowly. It means that you can keep your reign of terror going on a constant basis. You can just spam shots at people. You don't have to worry too much. And it's generally just a great attachment to have with this. Complements it really well as an LMG. Rapid fire is quite nice on this gun, but it does increase the recoil quite a bit, and over distance I think you're going to lose your accuracy and find it's not really necessary, so you're kind of looking at medium to close range, and I don't think that's where this gun really shines, so I wouldn't say it's a necessity attachment, but if you find it works for you, then it will work for you. As far as the divisions go, I think Infantry is the best one. Not only do you get more ammo, but the ADS movement increase is really helpful for this gun because you can move around the map, ADSing at the same time. It also just means that you are a bit more mobile because it is a heavy and clunky gun, and any other division won't really give you that. Obviously Armoured, which is the division you're meant to company with, I don't think there's much to get out of it from an LMG perspective apart from the bipod. I just think that all of its benefits, like, you know, not taking explosive damage, etc., is not necessarily that important for a class unless you're playing objective game modes, and even then it's probably a useful thing for any class really when you're playing objective game modes like that. Mountain's fine because I don't think you necessarily need a lot of attachments on this gun. I think you could easily get rid of Quickdraw, you could easily get rid of extended mags if you find you don't need it, you could easily get rid of FMJ if you find you're not getting many wall penetration kills. So that's not a big deal there. Also, obviously, a go-to class when there's lots of recon aircrafts up in the air, so really good in that sense. As far as my basic trainings go, Lookout, it for me is the 100% necessity for this class. Just being able to peek out of cover quickly to see who's about. You can see their names pop up from all sorts of distances, and it gives you a little bit more accuracy to lock on to those guys if you can line up your shots with the name and the character model. I would also say that Hustle's decent, just that quick reload. If you're finding that you're playing an objective game mode, it can be really helpful to have that quick reload. Rifleman is pretty decent. If you find that you're not really getting much out of this gun up close and personal, you can obviously take a second primary weapon like an SMG to accompany the LMGs for when you're running around and being a bit more aggressive. And primed is also great if you find you want to put an extra attachment on it, maybe a grip, maybe you want to go with something like rapid fire, or maybe you want to go with the reflex sight because you're not really a fan of the iron sights for whatever reason. You can do that, and obviously less flinch when you're shot is always really good as well. I hope you enjoyed this video. I really enjoyed making it, actually. The Lewis is just a fantastic gun to use. Sometimes you get on and you go, oh, got to use this gun today. Really don't like it. But this gun was an absolute pleasure. I kind of stopped using LMGs in CODs over the past simply because I found them to be a bit cheesy. And I think that's just quite a general thing, is that people didn't necessarily like using them because they were so easy. I think this is probably the same scenario, but having played this game for as long as I have, I'm all about using cheesy things now because it is just that sweaty and annoying at times. But really recommend it if you're struggling at games. The Lewis is fantastic go-to gun for me. I would put it ahead of the bar if I'm being perfectly honest with you once you get the correct loadouts for it. If you did watch the Gun in 60 Seconds video, I appreciate that a lot. Make sure you do like both of the videos and subscribe if you want more of this. And I'll see you next week when we look at the Carabin, or whatever it's called, Caribin, or Carbon, or just, you know, that sniper gun that people don't really use that often. Anyway, see you for that.